friends. My name is Sarah May. I am the author of She Journeys, a memoir of heartbreak and homecoming, coming out September 9th, 2025.
And my name is Andrew Singer, author of Now is the Time, a van life road trip. And my book is out now, and we want to thank Boulder Bookstore for not only carrying our books, but giving us this opportunity to do a little Q&A with their followers. So, we're going to start with question one to you, Sarah May. Can you give us a synopsis of your book?
Absolutely. She Journeys is a memoir of heartbreak and homecoming. So it's really about me leaving an abusive marriage and everything it took to leave in a marriage that unraveled in a really big traumatic way and the long healing journey that I embarked on. So there's elements of solo travel, spirituality, of rebuilding my life from the inside out when I thought my life was over. And it's a story about redemption, about hope and healing, and a story about resilience. And at the end, it's also a love story and how I ended up here in a van with this man by my side. So, yeah, it's a book about heartbreak, but ultimately it is about homecoming. What about you, Mr. Singer? What is
I'm so
you?
glad you asked.
Can you give us a brief synopsis of your book?
My book is a travel memoir, and maybe you could tell from the cover, it's about living in a van. And this travel memoir features funny anecdotes of behind the scenes, unfiltered version of van life. But it's also mixed with throughout this 13,000-mile road trip, the people we met, the lessons we learned, the reflections that went along with it. Also mixed in is a memoir component, flashbacks throughout my life, different hardships and challenges that have inspired me to live an alternative lifestyle. It's also got a love story. And yeah, let's get to question number two.
What inspired you to write your book?
I was working on another novel, had written one novel, and was starting a second novel. And 5 chapters in on this road trip, we went shopping at a crystal store in Yachats, Oregon, and we got into a conversation with the owner, and everything shifted for me in that moment. I had been really grappling with what I wanted to write next, and I realized that I wanted to write about life on the road. It's road tripping has been such a huge component of my life, not just as something that's a hobby and something that I enjoy, but something that's been really healing and transformative in my life. And yeah, I never thought I would write the anecdote, or I'm sorry, the like full road trip travelogue version of this book, but that's what ended up happening, and I'm grateful for it. What inspired you to write your book?
I've wanted to write a book for as long as I can remember. Writing has always been my way of processing and reflecting and making meaning. And so in 2020, when we had the van, I finally had the time and space to write this book. And it was incredibly challenging to go back and revisit places for me that were so painful and a lot of trauma. So ultimately, I did it for me to heal on a deeper level and as an act of discipline because writing a book takes a lot of discipline. And now that I've written it, it's my deepest hope and prayer that it serves others on their healing journey through divorce and through the ending of major relationships. So, Andrew, did you help me write my book? And have you read it now that it's finished?
Well, I feel pretty confident in saying I've probably read your book more than anybody else at various stages of its development. Um, and vice versa. Sarah's read my book more than anybody else. We're in a unique situation. I think one of the things that in our initial courtship and dating, and even we were friends before we dated, was this like we both shared a love of writing. And so I think we both had dreams of writing a book, and I don't know that we both thought it would actually look like this and come to fruition, but we I know I have a lot of gratitude, and I like to think, yeah, I did help you with your book. Some days I feel like a better editor than a writer. Um, and I think editing your book made me a better writer. I also know my book wouldn't be what it is like without you. Um, and witnessing you go so deep. Sarah's story is raw and heavy at times. And mine has flashes of that, but watching Sarah write what she wrote inspired me to go deeper in my own book, and I think it created something that I wouldn't have done on my own.
So, long story short, yes, we have helped each other write our respective books, and I really could not have done it without Andrew. I mean, maybe I could have, but being in such a loving, safe relationship really allowed me to feel safe and supported to go to the places that I needed to go, and he absolutely made my book what it is with his editing and his insights, and it's been the adventure of a lifetime writing our books together the last 4 years in this van.
Next question. Well, our books are different. Uh, it seems like healing is central to both of these stories. So, did you find the process of writing your book healing?
Yes, I did. It was incredibly healing. It was also incredibly hard, and incredibly vulnerable. And I really poured so much of myself into this book. And throughout the process, it was really interesting just going back to places of trauma and writing about them actually became very cathartic and helped me process on a different level. And I went to places I never would have if it weren't for asking the hard questions and writing. And so, absolutely, writing my book is probably up there as one of the most healing things I've done.
Hmm.
What about you?
Well, I'm gonna go off script and ask a follow-up question. What is something that during the writing process you realized hadn't been fully healed yet?
Hmm. I would say one of the biggest things would be to take personal responsibility. I was severely codependent in my marriage, and writing this book was really the first time I had to confront that and sit with that and look at my own behavior and where that came from and why. And so this book really required me to ask hard questions and to get honest with myself. And so it wasn't a place I expected to go, but I needed to go. What about you, Andrew?
Yeah, it was healing in a multitude of ways. I think it was healing for me as a writer. I was grappling with a lot of self-doubt and self-criticism, rejection, and ultimately starting this book and committing to it got me reinvigorated to write about something that I feel confident about, but also that I love. Um, and so I feel like it healed me as a writer in a sense, but I guess the backstory to that was that I was a writer who was not getting much luck in the writing sphere, getting my work picked up. Um, the other component to it that was quite challenging was the original drafts of this book did not have much of a memoir component at all. And based off feedback from some beta readers, Sarah's encouragement was sort of this reality that like, to write any memoir, even a travel memoir, like you're by default the main character, and there needs to be some character development if it's going to read like a proper story should. And so going back and like adding these things, these different challenges throughout my life, but I would say primarily, especially my relationship with my father. And I can jokingly say stuff about my daddy issues, but looking back now, I had written the early drafts and had really chronicled the challenges with my father, even in earlier drafts. But during the editing process, he got diagnosed with Parkinson's, and he subsequently passed away before this book uh, was ever, was still a couple years out from actually being finalized. So there was a lot for me to heal with my relationship with my father, and I think some of that came through writing, and some of it came through caregiving for him, laptop open, editing this book, him on his bed, needing help to go to the bathroom. And so, yeah, there was a lot of crossover and emotion that hopefully comes through in the writing.
Mm.
So, Sarah May, what is your favorite moment from my book? Which is a great question.
It's a hard question because I love your book so much. I know I'm biased because I'm your wife and I've gotten the pleasure and privilege of reading it so many times, but it's everything you want in a good book. It's funny, It's heartwarming, it's vulnerable, it's a great read. And so
Another mosquito.
it's such a great read, and it's so hard to pick one favorite moments because I have multiple. Um, but I think getting our van, which is the van build in the beginning of the book, and building it out is such a sweet memory because it really is the start of our life together. We built this, which is our first home together, and we had no idea what we were doing. And I'm still so proud of us that we did this and it hasn't fallen apart. And so having that written in ink forever to look back on and reflect on, like what a sweet, incredible time in our lives. And we're still in this home we love that we built together. And it's mixed up with our love story and falling in love and growing as a couple. And so that is one of my favorite moments. I have to say another one would also be Andrew's vulnerability around his recovery and his healing. Every time I hear him share his story, I'm so touched because I'm so proud of the man he is and the work he's done. And so I can't read it and not cry because I know how hard he's worked and I just admire him so much. And so I think it's so brave to share our stories of healing and recovery and, to admit where we've been and things we're not proud of. It's not easy to put these things on the page and share them with the world and open ourselves up for criticism. But like, my gosh, you do it in such a beautiful, powerful, raw, honest way that I just feel like in awe of you.
Thank you. I think there's something about the vulnerability of sharing your writing because when we're vulnerable with people, it's like a choice. You know if they're safe or not, but when you share it in your books, you don't know.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think we're both going to be experiencing that this year with our books coming out and the stories we've chosen to share in all their honesty and some good, some really bad.
Yeah.
So there's so many aspects of Sarah's book that I love. She mentioned some elements of taking responsibility, and there's a couple chapters in particular that drive in certain themes of this. The one that's coming to mind for me right now is Ancestors, is the title of the chapter. And yeah, as Sarah mentioned, it would be so easy to look at our parents, our grandparents, inherited trauma passed down from generation to generation and use that as an explanation for behavior. But Sarah walked the line so elegantly in taking ownership, not blaming, but also acknowledging. And it's interesting, we have a very intimate life together, living in a small space, but like through her writing, it's still, um, and even though we've had conversations about all these things so many times, that like it gave me the ability to start looking at my own familial line of trauma, of wounds, and trying to not just find reason, but find compassion. And I think Sarah does that really well. And every time I read that chapter, it still does that for me, but there's so many chapters I could probably ramble the rest of this video on that I really love. And I will geek out in the sense that like our love stories overlap in our books. There's not a lot that overlap in our books. They're independent stories, though Sarah's like the number two character in my book, whereas I'm not that in hers. There's a love story and essentially a happy ending, I like to think. And so I really enjoy reading our love story from her perspective. And I would like to think you enjoy reading about our love story
Of
from my
course.
perspective. So I think that's kind of a cool and unique situation that we're both in as not just authors, but authors of memoir related books. Next question. Is there anything else you want people to know about your book?
Yeah, I would love to share that while it's a book about my healing journey, I truly believe that healing doesn't have a timeline. It took me 10 years to even get to a point where I could write this book. and that it doesn't look a certain way. There's no one size fits all when it comes to healing. The things I talk about in my book might not be for everybody, and that's okay. But as long as we find the things that feel right and true for us on our own journeys, that's incredible because not only are we giving ourselves this gift, we're also giving it to those around us, the people we're in relationship, the people we love. They all get to benefit from our healing journey. And so, while this is a book about my healing, my deepest hope and prayer is that it inspires deeper healing for others and that we just see each other in our stories. So, yeah, that's my answer. What about you? What, if anything, would you want us to know about your book?
Well, Sarah and I get a lot of the same questions on repeat, and I wanted to build in all these van life FAQs into the book and in anecdote form. And I think one question I get is how do we get along as a couple living in a small space? And I think both of these books together tell that story because there's been a lot that had to occur in our pasts as individuals and then as a couple to be able to live this way. The other side of it is like, yeah, there's a van on the cover, there's van life in the subtitle, but the van is the vessel. We get asked a lot, like, do you have a YouTube channel? Are you influencers? And the answer is no. And I see why we have so many of those because it's way more lucrative than writing a book, at least at this point in our writing careers. But the reality is like road tripping is at a new high. And the zeitgeist around road tripping deserves to be captured in literature. We have a American literature um,
Like a
just a
tradition.
tradition. Yeah, the culture with whether it's all the way back to Kerouac and Travels with Charlie and Blue Highways. And if I stop and look on a bookshelf in any bookstore at the moment, like there's not something that captures this era. And I hope this book does. And it doesn't have to be about a van. It can be who I was 10 years ago, a guy laying down in the back of an SUV with his headlamp on, reading a book, on another trip, going down some road he didn't know. Um, so yeah, whether you're in a big RV or a small car or a van, or you're just curious about life on the road, um, I hope this book captures this era, but also uh, brings out the wanderlust in all of us.
Awesome. Can you read us a short passage from your book?
Behind the scenes, it took me like 30 minutes to pick a passage.
I was very patient, he says.
Very patient. We're gonna go with something out of the end here in the epilogue, and it's fitting for what I just said. While I am not your influencer, I do hope that you find your own inspiration to take to the tarmac, to meet new people and take in some silence, to see what comes up when you expand the border of your comfort zone and challenge what others call normal or traditional, to find what feels right within you. After all, now is the time to do it, to go when others give you the green light, and by God, to go when others say you shouldn't. Go it alone or go it together. Go when you're young, go when you're old, go when you're neither. Go for the weekend or go for a lifetime. Never forget, the road only welcomes those willing to leave. So go. Go count your firsts and avoid your lasts. Grab an atlas and leave the GPS in the past. Go down a highway you have never known, towards the horizon and away from home. Go unravel the riddles of the sacred road. Grow or shrink. Just go. All right. Will you read something from your book?
All right. I would also love to read something from the end of my book, the very last chapter titled The Journey. Undoing offers the precious opportunity to rebuild. I discovered there is no freedom without responsibility, that love begins within and doesn't require self-abandonment, ever. I rewrote my story about love. I chose a new way when I chose me first. Each and every wound has been made holy through the transformation. It was all about walking back, opening that door, wrapping my arms around us, and reuniting. It was all about becoming more powerful, true, and whole. It was all about reclamation. Only we are responsible for who we decide to be, not in spite of the wounds, but made more beautiful because of them. Love and suffering are universal, but the power of choice is everything. This is the power of owning the story. It no longer owns me. This is not the sad tale of a failed marriage or the tragic saga of a helicopter that fell out of the sky and stole precious people away. It's the story of how I came to be, how I was able to love and forgive and heal from the inside out to create a wild and beautiful life where I am free. The process of revisiting and reconciling has been terrifying and transformative, rage inducing and revolutionary. Through it all, the truth has been laid bare to honor the moments where I was reborn. Once I ventured into the Elysian fields of my own truth and power, there was no returning to a world so small that it no longer contained my expansion. This wasn't just any journey, it was the journey, the most important one I could ever take.
Thank you for watching, and thank you, Boulder Bookstore. We hope you find our books there, and we hope you find inspiration in both of them.
And we would love to hear from you. If you read our books and enjoyed them or get some inspiration, please reach out to us. Sarah Bay,
Andrew Singer.
happy trails!